Good morning, everyone on YouTube, on Zoom. Welcome. And if you are here in person and you're out in the lobby, go ahead and make your way in. It's time to get started. I'm sorry, Tedron La is here. Venerable Tedron.
Okay, please turn to page 34 in the Gold Prayer Book. And we'll chant Shakyamuni Buddha's mantra, and then the Medicine Buddha stanza and mantra, and then the four measurables. All on page 34. Te ata mune mune maha mune soha. Te ata mune mune maha mune soha. Te ata mune mune maha mune soha. Bhagawan, with equal compassion for all, whose name man merely heard dispels the suffering of the lower realms, dispel of disease and the three poisons, I prostrate to Medicine Buddha, lapis light. Te ata om bekanze bekanze maha bekanze bekanze raja samugate soha. Te ata om bekanze bekanze maha bekanze bekanze Raja Samugate Suha Teata Om Bekanze Bekanze Maha Bekanze Bekanze Raja Samugate So Teata Om Bekanze Bekanze Maha Bekanze Bekanze Raja Samugate Soha Teata Om Bekanze Bekanze Maha Bekanze Bekanze Raja Samugate Soha Teata Om Bekanze Bekanze Maha Bekanze Bekanze Raja Samugate Soha Teata Om Bekanze Bekanze Maha Bekanze Bekanze Raja Samugate Soha. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends or hatred for enemies. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends or hatred for enemies. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends or hatred for enemies. And then please go to page 37. And at the bottom of the page, I see two mantras. So let's say the verse of praise and mantra for Chen Reisig, and then the one for Green Taro. Not veiled by any fault, white in color, whose head a perfect Buddha crowns in light, gazing compassionately at all beings, to you, Chen Reisig, I'll sing when I prostrate. Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 Tade liberates from cyclic existence. Tade liberates from the 8 fears. Tade liberates from all sickness. I prostrate to the liberator, Mother Tara. Om Tare Tu Re Soha. 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 Now please go back to page 34. And we'll chant the refuge and bodhicitta prayer. Sangye Chidanso Kicho Nam La Janchu Badu Dani Kapsuji Dagi Chunyengi Pesanam Gi Dola Penchir Sangye Tu Pashog. Sangye Chidanso Kicho Nam La Janchu Badu Dani Kapsuji Dagi Chunyengi Pesanam Gi Dola Penchir Sangye Tu Pashog. Sangye Chidan Soki Chonam La Janchu Badu Dani Kapsuchi Dagi Chunyengi Pesanam Gi Dola Penchir Sangye Tu Pashog.
This is one of those days where you or I can just kind of go, oh, I'm still alive, I'm here, don't have a headache, whatever. And so, and that's so true every morning, and every afternoon, and every evening, We forget. We just forget how impermanent we are and how impermanent everything is. Because it's more convenient not to think about it. At least we think so. But it has so much value, remembering it. Remembering that, yeah, we run out of time, Thank goodness we'll get more. But we do run out of time. So I was thinking this morning, last time I think I was here, I was talking about developing self-respect, self-confidence, not letting almost our cultural habit of self-loathing get the better of us. So this morning I was laughing at myself because, as usual, when I teach, I get extremely nervous, and it starts usually the night before, So by the time I wake up, it's like, ugh. And it's just so funny because it's totally predictable, It's just like, oh, surprise, surprise, So, it's one of those situations where I could beat myself up, which is a habit I had for a long time, and just say, oh, get over it, get over yourself. It's not about you anyway, blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, I'm still going, so that doesn't help. But it's funny if you just kind of go, isn't this amusing? I mean, it is just amusing how habituated we are. So this is my habit. I've been teaching for 8 years, every, week. Has it gotten any better? No. So I just have to accept that, that this is just a habit I have, Doesn't mean I have to be controlled by that habit. It doesn't mean it has to determine my actions. It doesn't mean anything. It just means I'm going to feel a little sick before teaching. Big deal. No big deal. So, but when we resist, the habits that our thoughts, it's like when we resistance is futile. But so, you just can't not say that. Okay, so, but the energy of resistance is so stressful, and it's so unproductive, so that, whatever thoughts arise, the more we can, whatever they are, we can just, notice them. We don't have to follow them ever, but our habits generally will encourage us to do that. But we don't have to respond with judgment. Our first, action can just be to notice it, And our second action can be to choose whether to follow it or not, or listen to it or not, to encourage it or not, We don't have to be worried just because we have a thought. We don't have to judge ourselves, based on our thoughts. And habits that arise that we're not comfortable having, or wish we didn't have, or whatever, if we can greet them with some sort of hug, like, oh, okay, here you are, anxiety, I know you. So, you know, and just not react, not be reactive, but instead encourage ourselves, you know, in some way. Some days we have to encourage ourselves rather directly, you know, like, well, it's not going to kill me, so, you know, keep breathing, you know, because sometimes, like, you know, you really feel like, with my anxiety, I feel like, oh, I can't survive this, you know. But now that I've lived with it so long, you know, obviously I can. So, you know, it's just this, you know, whatever the enormity of it is not true. You know, it's just not true. You know, no matter how undesirable it is, you know, you can handle this moment. And this is the advantage of developing the habit of pausing. You know, that's take a beat. Just wait. As opposed to jumping in with some sort of long self-critique or some sort of long rationalization about why, of course, you're like this, you know, which also doesn't help. You know, it just, you know, just being like, oh, okay, there it is. Next. Oh, there it is still. But the idea of being able to tolerate the discomfort that arises in the mind is a really helpful skill, you know. And we know it when we have friends who come to us when they're, you know, in a lot of discomfort, you know, and we just kind of want to hold them, you know, reassure them that it's, you know, you've got support, this will pass. And we kind of need to learn how to do that for ourselves. You know, His Holiness goes on and on and on and on and on about how important affection is when we're little. You know, that is, I mean, little children never know what's going on. And they, you know, if they get sick, they have no clue why they feel so bad. You know, it's that uncertainty of being young and, you know, I mean, the ignorance is bliss is true a lot when you're a child too, but also there are many moments where it's sort of like, what's going on, you know? And it's not comfortable. And so being able to hold your mother's hand or your father's hand or being picked up and getting a hug is just, you know, is really helps us feel that interconnection, you know, that somebody else gets us, you know, like, oh, yes, I understand, you know, come here, and you pick them up. We need to learn how to do that for ourselves so that when we have thoughts that we know are not helpful, that we know they're not skillful, but we need some sort of pause to just say it's okay. You know, you have not failed just because you have this thought. You know, or when we make a mistake, you know, we need that same kind of thing. We don't need to go to self-loathing, just like, oh, what an idiot, you know. We can go instead to like, oh, yeah, that's uncomfortable, you know, and provide a little reminder. And why is this important? Well, as we were talking about how, and now we talk about all the time, you know, that we're trying to develop this sort of universal love and compassion for all sentient beings. And who do we leave out? Yeah, we do. We leave out ourselves. Big mistake. All the teachings say, begin with yourself. You know? So when we even do an exercise like equalizing ourselves with others, we need to start with ourselves. You know, we need to equalize ourselves with our friends. our strangers, our enemies. You know, we need to recognize that just like all these other categories of people, because sometimes we treat ourselves as a friend, sometimes as a stranger, and sometimes as an enemy. You know? And in those moments of that kind of reaction to ourselves, you know, we are exaggerating something. You know, we are cutting ourselves off from our interconnectedness with humanity. We're judging. You know? And it's a habit that's helpful to give up towards everything. You know, it doesn't mean we don't need friends. It doesn't mean there aren't going to be people who are strangers, you know, but it does mean that we don't just lump ourselves and others into these impenetrable groups, because that's a lie anyway, you know. And so just the way that friends and strangers and enemies is a fluid kind of labeling, you know, because they change. Our friends have changed our whole lives. People who are enemies become friends. Everybody who's a friend was a stranger, you know, all that stuff. So, and then people who are very good friends, they move away and they become strangers again. You know, so it's just this fluid kind of thing. Well, we need to try to direct some of that understanding towards self and other. Self and other is also a point of view. Just like it's our point of view who are our friends, who are our enemies, so is self and other. We're all selves. We're all other. It's just from a perspective. And it's rather meaningless in the sense of division. You know? So the Buddha talked about how we're all the same, all wanting happiness and not wanting suffering, and being ignorant of how to do that. So, you know, we have more shared attributes than differences. But just like we can be a very supportive friend, we can learn to have self-respect, self-confidence, self-affection. You know, this doesn't have to go to the extreme of, we don't want to go to where we're boosting ourselves up. Where? Where do we not want to go? Arrogance. So what is that? Yeah, elevating ourselves above everybody. You know? First of all, it's going to be, it's not going to be a stable platform, is it? Yeah. You know, all you have to do is, go look at the Olympics and go, no, I can't do that. So, it's just like ridiculous. So that's not a stable way to go about this. We don't need to exaggerate anything. We just need to recognize that we have good qualities, we have bad habits, we have good habits. We have all these things. We don't have to, we're all a mixed bag of stuff. And when we exaggerate to either direction, it's not a stable platform. And most of us know or have friends or whatever that, we get a clue that self-loathing is not helpful. And when we have a habit of it, has anybody ever had a friend that seems to always that's all they do is just talk about how terrible they are and how, they'll never get this. Remember how exhausting that is? Well, if you do this to yourself, it's very exhausting. And we're cutting ourselves off from others. So the very support we need to get through those times where we, Nothing seems to be going in the right direction, because we're, first of all, too self-focused, where you kind of forget to ask about the other person's day, and how are you? So after you've dumped all your stuff, then you kind of go, oh, and by the way, how are you? So how can we do this? How can we equalize self with others? Do you all have the habit of, like I do, of judging others? It's amazing how little time we need to make an assessment of someone. We go to a meeting, we go to a party, we go, whatever, and we just immediately have some opinions about other people, especially if they talk. As soon as they open their mouths, it's like, oh, God, Other times it's like, oh, my best friend, because they're saying exactly what we believe. So, But we're just very quick to kind of put people in categories of, oh, that could be a friend, oh, never going there, that kind of thing. Oh. So we immediately throw up walls before we know anything. And we kind of do that to ourselves as well. And we did it a long time ago. So anytime some habit arises that we're very familiar with, that we don't like about ourselves, and we're right back there of just sort of like, useless, terrible person, whatever it is. So we need to actually practice being supportive to ourselves if we have that habit. Sort of like when you're in a relationship and you're trying to learn how to be supportive of your partner, sometimes you have to ask, what is it you need? Because your guessing isn't working. You're not the other person's looking at you like, oh, you think that helps? You're not in tune somehow. You're missing the mark, So you need to ask. So we need to start getting in that habit of asking ourselves, okay, what's going on here? Why are you beating yourself up? What's this about? Is it useful? Whatever. Because one of the things we can practice, I was reading an exercise in a book, and it said, every morning for maybe 10 times or something, we should say, I am happy with who I am. And of course, my first thought was, yeah, well, that's not true. That sounds great, but I'm not happy. So how can we rephrase that? So one of the things, and I remember doing this in my years of trying to, transform my mind, of where we have to practice this kind of like, okay, I'm not happy with this habit, whatever it is. So we got to separate ourselves from the habit. I'm not happy that I judge everybody, da-da-da-da-da. But I'm working to change that. I am happy that I'm working to change that. I'm happy that I'm using my abilities to change this habit. We have to start somewhere. So one of the things I find with self-talk, which is kind of ironic, it helps if it's the truth. Even though we believe all this garbage we say about ourselves, that isn't the truth. So I don't know why that works, but it's true, But you don't want to start with something that you find totally unbelievable. So you need to find some way to remind yourself that you are more than just this habit or this, whatever. And you need to come up with things that you know to be true. And that can take practice, depending on where you are in that particular time. Where some days that's kind of easy, oh, okay, but I'm good at this, da-da-da-da-da. and recognizing how we're exaggerating our negative stuff, just the same as we do with others. We exaggerate their negative stuff. But it really does make a difference if we practice this. If we get up in the morning and if we, give ourselves a little pep talk. Ah, yay, I'm alive. I have arms. I have, a human brain still. These are all good things. And then breathe. So this is the idea of like giving yourself that pause. We need to practice creating that space, because it's not like we really want that uncomfortable pause. What do we call them? Pregnant pauses. I guess there's some meaning behind that. So we want to have the kind of pause that we're okay with, and that takes time. So if you're not accustomed to pausing, if you tend to speak right away, reactive in your actions and words, then it takes a little practice to just pause. And at first, you feel like, how long does a pause supposed to be? So you have to get comfortable with it. And so practicing it on a cushion is helpful. Trying to get comfortable with creating space for yourself, making space, because there's space there. And it can be, doing a meditation on the mind like the sky. We have these beautiful Carolina blue skies, right? And even when I'm in other places, I think about beautiful Carolina blue skies, even though Florida has some blue skies too, and so does Australia and other places I've lived. So, but still, I fall in with the cliches. So it's really kind of easy for me to imagine sitting, outside on a nice, cool, comfortable day. I can't have creepy crawlers and I can't have heat, in my visions, because it just doesn't help. So, I'm in this sort of very safe place, but it's a beautiful sky, beautiful blue sky, no clouds. I mean, occasionally a cloud maybe, but, basically a clear blue sky. And then you lie back and you just look up at this blue sky and you let yourself be completely surrounded by that feeling of the blue sky. That spaciousness of the sky, the fact that it's a comfortable vision, that's what you see, this beautiful blue sky. We like it. We go outside and we go, oh, what a beautiful day. So there's a feeling it evokes. But just imagining, that you're lying back on a creatureless, comfortable spot, the perfect temperature, looking at this beautiful blue sky. This is available to us all the time because the mind has this kind of space and we just need to get familiar with it. There's a lot of space between thoughts that we're not familiar with. And we can make good use of that space by giving us time to choose what we want to do next with our body or speech, our mind. Does that make sense? Do people have success trying to create this spaciousness in their mind? Do people meaning you? not somebody else, not John Kabat-Zinn, just, do you face with this? It takes practice though, doesn't it? Go ahead, Susie.
I'm just carrying the microphone over to Susan.
Oh, hello, Susan.
Hello. Yes, it's taken time, but now I find that I really can be in that space. And that does free me up to respond rather than first thing out of my mouth, first thing out in my mind. And it just takes time. And I can still slip out of it very easily. So, but I know how to bring it back. So it's a process.
It is a process. And the good news is we're very good at learning things.
Oh no, I mean, I was just agreeing, but she said pretty much how I felt. But for me, it did take time. But from when I first started practicing Buddhism to now, it's probably the most important thing I've learned so far. I was my whole life, I'm not gonna say the most, but one of the most reactive people I knew that just went with everything I felt and thought, and it always got me into a lot of trouble. It never really got me into anything good. So learning to be able to, step back and kind of give space and see things and then respond, probably the most valuable lesson I've ever learned in my entire life, probably.
Yeah, me too. I mean, and this is that recognition that whatever's going on, you have time. Now that's not true when you're driving your car and someone's car is just flipped over in front of you and you have to get out of the way. Okay? So let's not go exaggerating the fact that, sometimes you just have to react. Yeah, sometimes you have to react. And please do. But most of the time, we have some time, And so people, it's the opposite is also true. Some people are not reactive, they don't speak up, they hold everything within, and it seems like they're very spacious, but really they're just going inside and being reactive inside, either by beating themselves up or whatever their reaction is to the other person, So it's, we have to recognize what kind of person we are. Are we the kind of person that doesn't speak up enough? Are we the kind of person that never has that problem? Y'all can pick which one I am. So it's this, but the main thing is this space, realizing, okay, I'm alone here in my mind. I can take my time, I can breathe. This moment is not the moment to end all moments. That's one of the things some of us have to practice, is this, even the idea that it really does not matter how you respond in every moment. So we can take the pressure off. And the more that we give ourselves spaciousness instead, the better our response is likely to be, because that gives us time to choose. To choose with going with, anger, or to choose with going to, curiosity. I don't understand. Can you explain more about that? So we have to really do that with ourselves, don't we? Because often the first conversation we have is with ourselves. Ooh, he's mad at me. What did I do? Whatever. So we have to be careful about noticing these things. What is my habit? You don't want to be addressing someone else's habit. You want to get to know your habit and find out, is this useful or not? Is it skillful or not? Is it helping or not? And the more that you have that clenched feeling, the more you know that your response, your habitual response is not helping. Feeling bad, it may not actually be a clue to anything that's actually happening to you. It could be a clue to how you talk to yourself. you know, how you judge yourself, what expectations you have. Because sometimes we have that because we think we should be perfect and we've just made a little mistake, you know. Yeah, Elise.
Another aspect of this is I've read this great quote, something like, we don't see things as they are, we see things as we are.
Yeah.
And whenever I'm jumping to that interpretation, I'm thinking, am I seeing something, the mood I'm in? Am I in a bad mood? Or am I in an unrealistically happy mood? Or, you know, really, what am I really seeing outside of me, not through me?
Yeah, because that brings up that good point about the fact the mind's a mirror. But what is it reflecting? Is it reflecting accurately the world that you're seeing? The mind reflects your mind. Your habits of mind, you know, everything that we bring to that moment. And it's generally not very reliable. You know, it tends towards seeing things either in a way we want to see them, or if we have a real negative habit, it sees things in ways that just support our idea that everything's terrible. You know, we pick up on those, you know, what's wrong with this picture? If that's our habit, you know, that's what the mind's going to reflect. So that's why creating this spaciousness, this ability to pause and have a spacious mind gives you a lot more room to choose to come back with a response that is coming from a place of peace. Peace with yourself, peace with others. You know, when we can kind of go, okay, especially, you know, when you have that sort of immediate gut reaction, I'm not comfortable, you know, that's a clue. Breathe, pause, because that discomfort is going to affect your response if you allow it. You know, so you need to kind of help yourself return to a place of comfort. Am I making any sense? The Buddha is pretty great. Yeah, Robbie.
Thank you. I just want to say that metaphor of the mirror is really, for me, quite powerful. If we think of our mind as a mirror, right now it's dirty and smudged and maybe has a few cracks in it, and it's not reflecting at all accurately. But as we remove the delusions from our mind stream, as we clean that mirror and get in touch with the clear nature of our mind, it reflects perfectly what's out there. It reflects reality and not its own contaminants. That's a great metaphor. Thank you.
Yeah. It's so, and one of the delusions are these exaggerations. Yeah.
I was just gonna, oh, it's on? It's on? Yeah. I just had another thought that I wanted to add to that. Our minds are also like filters. Like when you go to a search engine and you can select different filters that's going to impact what you see. So just kind of an additional metaphor that I was thinking about. So our thoughts, our beliefs, that mental talk are like filters that we set that impact what we perceive. So.
Yeah, and we need to understand that we can choose our filters. Right now, we are habituated to certain kinds of filters. We've learned them, we brought them with us from the last life, if you kind of into that kind of thing. So, you know, it's not that we started fresh and then messed it up. It's just, no, we just always had these filters. So, but we're just habituated to them. We practice them a lot. So they come up right away. And so it's hilarious just sometimes just to watch your mind, just to kind of go, oh my goodness, that's my first thought. You know, it's interesting because we can change that. That's the good news. If we know what they are, then we can kind of like, oh, that's really true. You know, we can talk ourselves out of that filter because most of them are nonsense. But we need to recognize that they're there. Some of them are nonsense not because they don't reflect trauma. You know, some of our habits come from traumatic experiences in our lives. You know, those filters develop. But the meaning from them has become nonsensical. We are generalizing the trauma to a much bigger arena, you know. And we can allow ourselves, you know, like when you ever, I mean, we're all pretty old, but, you know, when we were younger, when you hear that your parents' voice in your head, you know, da-da-da. Now it's our voice, but, you know, started off with our parents' voice or whatever. You know, well, they're not here. You know, we don't have to, you know, they're not the voice now. It's our voice. We've adopted that voice, you know, and we can choose to quit listening. And these smudges and smears and these cracks, you know, even the cracks of a mirror can be fixed. You know, fortunately, because it's the mind. Yes, Orlando.
Hi, thank you. I work a lot with microscopes, so for me, the mirror metaphor is quite beautiful, but at least to me, it looks more like a lens. Because in my work, when we cannot focus an image very well, we actually have corrective lenses, and then we can superimpose them on a lens and then get a sharp image. So, for example, I was thinking the other day that when I'm hungry, I tend to have less patience.
Yeah.
So I was thinking that's like a lens that is producing a distorted image of everything, and I need to put like some correction on top of that, but for example, I went to grad school to learn how to correct that, and I think that what I'm doing here is trying to learn how to correct those distorted images that come from reality.
Yeah, that's great. You know, this is the thing. And so we need these kinds of images in our mind to help us take that pause and help us know that there's something else we could do. We can put the corrective lens on. We can get out the Windex and clean the mirror. You know, we can do things to correct ourselves, but we need to practice it. You know, depending on where you are in this process, you know, we really do need to practice for those areas that we're not so skilled at, that seem to overcome us every time, you know? So that's where doing this in your safe spot of meditation or quiet reflection, you know, kind of thing, is so useful because you're not out in the thick of it. You're not dealing with someone else. You're just dealing with your own mind. You know, you have a little bit of control over, you know, the time, the noise, the whatever. And all that helps you be able to do it out in the chaos. Being able to get it to be habitual, you know, like when you drive, you know, you're learning how to drive, and you have to go through that long list when you're first learning because you can't remember it all, and you're nervous, you know, and blah, 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 you know. But you go over it for the test or, you know, and you get so familiar with it, you almost can't not do it the way you learned, you know. So it's the same kind of thing. We will need to practice it when there's nothing else going on. You know? So that's why these meditations, like exchanging self for others, is helpful, because it gives us a structure for that. I have my crutch today. Let's see if my crutch works today. I also have what are they called? Progressive lens. I've never had progressive lenses before. I'm used to trifocals. And I've learned that I sort of don't know how to read with progressive lenses. Okay, that's not it. So when we're working on equalizing literally ourselves and others, as opposed to the bigger practice when we try to equalize ourselves with all others to develop universal compassion and affection, we need to start with, generally this exercise, you bring to mind a friend, you bring to mind a stranger, you bring to mind someone you find difficult, and you're looking at how these labels are fluid, that if you really look at it, that they're changeable, and and what do they change in respect with, too? How do our labels change? Why do they change? Who's involved in the change? I'm giving lots of hints. Yes, us. And so, how does an enemy become a friend? Yeah, but what would cause that? Oh. Any ideas? Yeah. Suddenly, like, oh, yes. We agree, Or they show up with a cake for your birthday, or they just remember your birthday, whatever. I mean, because they've done something that we see as nice for ourselves or helpful for ourselves, And when does a friend become an enemy? They steal your partner. The worst. Or you find out their political views don't agree with yours. You can like someone and like someone and like someone, and then they say something on some other complete subject that you've never talked about and go, oh, who is this person? Because of the habit of exaggeration. We take that one little piece of information and we create a great big filter that says, ooh, one of those. And we put them around it, So it's all in relation to us. It's our friends, our difficult people, our strangers. Because it's true, our strangers are not the same as everybody else's strangers. Most of your friends are my strangers, So when we're trying to see ourselves equal with others, we need to see that we do this to ourselves as well. Some days we treat ourselves as someone we like. Some days we treat ourselves as someone we don't like, And sometimes we don't know ourselves at all. In terms of, if you're not looking at it from your point of view, which is kind of unimaginable, but if you're not looking at it from your point of view, what's true about all these friends, enemies, and strangers and yourself? You want to be happy. Have you ever noticed, I think I've said this before, when I used to stand in line waiting for lunch at Chen Raising Institute, because they offered us lunch, the Nancy lunch, and so we were all in line with everybody else, and long line, and you hear everybody's conversation in line. Well, so this is a Buddhist retreat center, Chen Raising Institute, and so people are coming there, working on their issues and stuff, but you hear all their versions of suffering. They're in line talking about the illness of their partner, the difficulties with their child, or their own health difficulties, or their, whatever. It's unbelievable. You just stand there and you just listen to, all these incredibly insane levels of struggling. And they're just people. They're all strangers to me for the most part. What does that tell us? I didn't hear that. Yeah, that when we're struggling, you can bet, it's 100% guaranteed that there are other people struggling about the same kind of struggle. You know, that you're not alone in struggling. You know, that you're not alone in not knowing how to deal with it. This is why support groups can be helpful. Because you discover, oh my goodness, I'm not the only idiot in the room. You know, there are other people who didn't respond well to this or don't know what to do with that or da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Well, we need to take that information and not just leave it there. We need to be able in those moments of concern, of, you know, our self-judgment, and bring that knowledge to those moments. You know, so we can say, I'm not the only one who doesn't have the answers here. You know, if that's the direction your thoughts are going. You know, I'm not the only one who's made mistakes. I'm not the only one, da-da-da-da-da. What can that help you with? For who? For self. It can help you generate compassion for yourself. It can also help you realize that shared humanity, you know? If we're worried if we're working on our self-image, you know, we need to develop some self-confidence that we're not doing worse than everybody else on the planet. We're not doing better than everybody else on the planet. We have our skills, other people have skills, you know, we're all, you know, giving a shot. We can bring more balance to our self-judgment so that when our self-judgment goes, oh my God, I can't believe you did that, you know, you can go, well, you know, I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm going to make mistakes, you know, and I'm not the first, I won't be the last, and da-da-da-da-da. I mean, it all sounds very trite, but we need to hear it because we're telling ourselves something else. I mean, you don't need these conversations if you're not trashing yourself, you know? So this is about countering the habitual mind that, you know, not only has suffering, but then beats us up about how we respond to the suffering, instead of having compassion. What's one of the obstacles, to me, one of my obstacles to having self-compassion is it kind of demands acceptance of what's going on. You know, oh, I am suffering. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing. You know, things that are not particularly comfortable. You know, but that's why recognizing you're in the same boat with everybody else. And this is part of the way life is. This is, as we say, you know, it's what samsara is, what some cyclic existence is. We just meet conditions again and again and again, and they are conditions for suffering. And how we respond to that suffering is going to have a great deal to do with how much peace we also have. You know, that inner peace that just is kind of knows, okay, I can handle whatever comes up. And then something comes up and you go, well, maybe not this. But then you find your balance with this. You know, it's like amazing all the different things that can come up that we never heard of. So, you know, but So one of the ways we can practice this equalizing ourselves with others, if you're really terrible at having nothing but negative filters towards yourself, then you need to bring like a friend of mine. And imagine your friend saying exactly the same things you're saying, and then what you would say to them. And I know this sounds ridiculous, yeah, how childlike. But it really can help you come up with things. Because when, have you ever been asked to, like, make a list of things you like about yourself, and it's blank, and 20 minutes later it's still blank, and you're kind of like, "Argh." So we sort of have to practice being able to even think of these things, encourage ourselves, I don't know where we get that, but our society's not very good at it, It's like we've gotten better. I mean, I know that kids get awards for everything now, so we may have tipped the scales. But it is this, if you're not practiced at being able to think of things that are supportive, then think about what you've said to other people when they've needed you, and how you've encouraged them. And then you just make that conversation about yourself. You practice that. And sometimes you have to have these kind of conversations all day long, depending on where you are. If you're dealing with, when I was going through a divorce, I couldn't have had more self-hate. It's like, I was really excelling at it. And being able to just keep, my habit was to just go towards guilt. And what did guilt do for me? Oh, you don't have to change. You are just that. You can't change. You're stuck with that, Well, that's not helpful. So I just had to every second kind of go, don't go there. You can change. Don't go there. I mean, literally. 3,000 times a minute, But it can become a habit where you just don't go there, You don't just see yourself as fixed, solid. And then I met Buddhism. And it's like, oh, we can change, yay. And we don't have the nature that is flawed. We actually have a nature that is totally trainable in whatever direction we train it. When all those smudges and all those cracks are fixed in the mirror, it reflects perfectly. We're able to do that with practice and skill and developing wisdom and developing self-respect, self-confidence. We need that in order to be able to develop affection and love and compassion for others. Because we're one of those others. We're all the same group. If you have trouble thinking that you're misjudging yourself, you think, yeah. My friend really trashes herself, and she's totally wrong, blah, blah, blah. But, I am really like that. Then we need to remind ourselves of occasions where we've totally misjudged somebody, and we're just wrong. We need to remember we're capable of being wrong about ourselves. Whatever grip we've got, we need to try to figure out a way to loosen it. So every lie you tell yourself, you need to catch it, and go, well, that's not true. I am not always this way. I am sometimes a nice, generous, kind person. Helpful. I'm not always stupid. Whatever your theme is. I have all of them. And we have them because we're good students. You know, we take what we hear, and then we memorize it. And unfortunately, so much of what we hear is through those filters. You know, so that even what we're hearing now we're filtering. So even when we start to tell ourselves that, okay, maybe that's not true, we have a filter of saying, yeah, it is. So you have to practice some more. And you also have to just start not listening to the exaggerations and the lies and the wrong views. So. But starting your day with that, image of a peaceful Carolina blue sky, or whatever that image is to you, the perfect, clean, spotless mirror that reflects everything accurately. The moon on a still lake, It's like really remarkable how that kind of stillness even exists out in nature, where we can actually see, the moon on the surface of a lake and think, and it really looks like the moon is there. Or you can't tell on a picture whether it's upside down or right side up because it's a still lake. Well, our minds are completely, that faculty is there for the mind to be that still and peaceful. But we do have to practice it and allow it to, space to arise. All right. My leg's asleep. Is that a circulation problem? Okay. So we're going to do a little Tonglen practice for ourselves. Tonglen is taking and giving. We're taking away suffering and giving happiness. So you do some 9-round breathing if that helps you kind of quiet your mind. Or just follow your breath for a minute or two. Knowing that you have no place else to be. Just sitting here, being aware of your body sitting here. Aware of the temperature in the room. Aware of the sounds. And allow your attention to rest upon the breath. Try to relax the muscles in your body, allowing the muscles in your face to soften. The shoulders to relax. And bring to mind something that you're suffering with. It'd be either now, or something later today, or this week, of an event you're not looking forward to, a conversation you don't want to have, someone you just always seem to have conflict with, or your body, just every morning you wake up and it's like something else is wrong. Just bring it to mind. Whether it's physical pain or mental pain. And imagine it takes the form of thick, dark smoke, this suffering. If it's in the future, imagine this thick, dark smoke comes closer to your body now, getting denser and denser, just outside of your nose. If it's suffering you're experiencing right now, imagine it rising out from the body and again becoming denser and denser. An incredibly dark, dense drop of dark smoke. Now imagine it, one deep breath. You bring that smoke into your body and allow it to go into your heart and smash your self-loathing. Imagine it coming in and that self-hatred, that dislike you might have of yourself. That suffering just explodes, that rock of self-loathing right out of your heart, disappearing completely, not harming you or anyone else. Now generate compassion for yourself. You may have to start with compassion for someone else that's suffering, but bring that compassion to yourself for all the suffering that you might experience today and the future. Think about what would comfort you in those moments of suffering. Kindness, patience, validation, respect, interconnectedness, feeling seen and heard. Imagine all this positive energy, these positive thoughts, all the good qualities as rays of light. Imagining them coming from all the hearts in this room. Entering your body. Rays of light coming from your heart, entering their bodies. Imagine these rays of light transforming into exactly what is needed. To comfort, to support, to remove the causes of suffering. Imagine these rays of light supporting you throughout today, throughout this week. And think, may I be happy. May I have the causes for happiness. May I be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. And just bring your attention back. So all we need to learn to practice is just this recognition that we know that there are events that cause us difficulty, you know? So this is an opportunity to just bring one to mind and work with it in advance. You know, imagine that you have all the skills you need in order to be able to be responsive instead of reactive, to be able to be patient with yourself and others, to be able to be kind, you know, with yourself and others, to be able to not have that panic feeling when that in your gut arises, where you're kind of like, oh, I don't like this, you know, and practice with it. Practice that self-talk that says, oh, whatever it is, I don't have to make it worse. You know, that's what I have to tell myself when I'm feeling anxious. Oh, it's okay. Don't worry. I'm not going to do anything to make it worse. You know, and I still show up and I still do the action, you know, that makes me nervous. So it's just, it isn't about being able to end the suffering that happens. You know, that's cyclic existence. Until we're liberated, we're going to have suffering, you know. It's about giving us what we need in order to support ourselves through the suffering, you know, so that we don't wear ourselves out by giving ourselves too much negativity, you know. And we don't wear ourselves out thinking that it shouldn't be happening to me, you know, blah, blah, blah. Well, it happens to everybody. So that's where you really, you want to look around, and see that it's not just you that suffers, everybody suffers, Does that make sense? Okay. Anyway. And sometimes some people, it just depends on your habit of mind. If you really struggle with having self-compassion, it can be really helpful to imagine yourself as a child, or imagine yourself, like Thich Nhat Hanh would say, you're a crying baby and you don't have a chat with a crying baby, you pick it up and comfort it. That sometimes all we need is that acknowledgement that, and we can validate ourselves. Ooh, I'm not comfortable. That doesn't mean anybody's doing anything to us. It just means one of those filters has arisen and we're experiencing whatever's happening through a filter that's not comfortable. So being able to know that and then say, okay, I need more space to deal with this moment. This all just very quick, because our minds are very quick. That discomfort came right away. So it doesn't require a lot of time. So thoughts, questions, objections, arguments, debate? Yes, ready with that debate. So, but yep. I think it's on.
Okay, one of the things that really helps me is kind of dropping into the body, and just the breathing helps with that, right? But it's kind of a whole, like I've heard it, like drop the backpack, relax into your body. It kind of takes me away from all the going round and round in whatever is going on in my thoughts. And then another image I always really liked, it's kind of, like breathing, deep into the body, relax the body, and then it's like these thoughts are a room next door, you're in a hotel, and it's just a bunch of people over there talking, and you're not really listening to them.
Yeah. Yeah, you could go there and resist the reality that, there are people over there talking.
Yeah, so that's just a couple things that really help me, that kind of, I think I've always been pretty kinesthetic, so that somatic kind of responding really is helpful. And I've also heard like the stuff then that comes up that maybe you don't like, called a beautiful monster. And then, so that beautiful part is kind of the, I can just be with you and
encourage you to walk away.
Yeah, just let you dissolve when you're ready.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. I mean, in some traditions, they recommend making friends, with these voices or whatever. In our tradition, generally not. Generally, it's this, don't see your afflictions as your friends. They are hurting you, But there's a difference between the affliction and you. We need to really understand that we really aren't this or that. I mean, we are this fluid moments of body and mind, So we don't need to attach ourselves to any particular moment and say, this is me. In fact, we can't do it. We try and we can't do it. So, it's just but being able to like Chitsa is saying, this idea of just letting, the voices just kind of go to the background. That's why I like sitting, sinking in a pool of water, and all the noises just kind of get muted, just all that kind of ways. So it's really helpful to find ways that work for you, like really getting grounded in the sensations of your body touching a cushion or the chair or the back, or your feet touching the ground as you walk. All of those things are very helpful for, it's that present moment awareness of going like, okay, this moment is not the end-all be-all moment of all existence, and just experience this moment for what it is, gone. This moment, and then this moment, it's really very transient, and so that there's a lot of space in these moments, and if you have to think about the space in atoms, that if you had those microscopes and you could look at your body, what you'd mostly find is space, which is like freaky. But that's the reality. So it's the fact that it's kind of inconceivable doesn't make it true. So we just, kind of practice with these things and find our way to find that spaciousness inside. So, time for announcements. Who are our announcement people?
Looks like Robbie has an announcement.
Always, it's your job.
Okay, thank you, Venerable Tedron. As everybody can see, our very talented demolition crew has been hard at work in preparation for our center renovations and improvements, so we want to thank them. David Strevel, Brian Wright, Orlando, Mark, who else has been? Chris, okay.
Marty.
Yeah, and anyone whose name I've left out, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. The board, yes. The board of directors is reviewing the contract that's been offered by our designated contractor, who is recommended by the architect, and we anticipate that that will be signed shortly. And then the renovations will commence. This is to improve the center based on the recommendations of Geshe Gellick, make it more functional for everyone who comes here, and to do needed improvements that have been on the back burner for a long time. This is the first time in the 20 years that we've been here that we've really put some money back into our facility in a significant way to make it functional for the next 20 years. So once the contractor starts working, we anticipate 6 to 7 weeks of a little bit of chaos here, but the center will still be open and we'll still have access to the Kadampa in this part of the lobby and everything, so we'll continue. That also means the bills will be coming in. So if you would like to support this very needed project, you can put a check in the offering box and just mark renovations. Of the money, I assure you, will be used only for that purpose. We have some people who are giving donations of stock, and if you're interested in doing that, I'm going to ask you to speak to David Strevel. He can tell you how to do that. And we also have people, there's also a possibility of making a donation from your retirement accounts. So David can also give you some clarity on that. And check the website. There are going to be regular videos of what's going on and updates of the process. So thank you, everyone.
Everybody rejoice in all this activity. It's interdependent, isn't it? So, how wonderful. Thanks.
We anticipate our potlucks will continue probably outside, but unless the weather's terrible, but we plan on doing the monthly potlucks even during the renovations. Next week, yeah. So there'll be a potluck after the teachings next Sunday, and the food is always fantastic.
Yes, we have good cooks. Now, I'm not one of them. So I appreciate it, though. I'm a good eater. Okay, so we dedicate our merits. Take it away.
Okay, please turn to page 246 in the Gold Prayer Book. And we'll start with the dedication verses from Master Shantideva. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of our merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled, with the mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may these never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. And then go to page 244 and 245 for the long life prayers. First for His Holiness. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good, all powerful Chanreze Tenzin Gyatso. Please remain until samsara ends. It's on page 245 for Khyentse Rinpoche Jetsun Losang Dalak. The one who masters speech at a very young age. The one with great patience who received the name Avatara. The one with great precision who spread the teachings of Lama Tsongkhapa on bliss and void. Lama ornament of the yellow hat tradition. Please remain until samsara ends. And then the back cover, inside cover for Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Peerless teacher and assembly of the children of victorious Swan, Shravakas, and Pratyeka Buddhas. Victorious Losang, father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of the infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. Holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice. You are the arm of patience that is never discouraged, incomparable venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and from other living beings you suddenly depart to peace, what a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels, and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory. For fortunate disciples. And on the inside front cover, a long life prayer for Geshe-la. Supreme God, you lead us on the many paths of virtue. A shining sun, you give us the best of excellent explanations. Supreme virtuous friend, you are constant Dharma companion. Lama, renounced fame, may you ever remain. And for Geshe Sangpo, you have steadfast imprints of virtuous qualities and keep the instructions of glorious Guru in your heart. You pass day and night with noble activities. Great virtuous friend, may you have a very long life. And then 7 Tower mantras for all beings. Om Tare Tu Re So Ha. 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 Om Tare Tu Re So Ha.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you. Bye.